What's going on, guys? It's Snooze603, and joining me today is Fake Thriller.
What's up, guys?
And I know yesterday we talked about this new game mode, Obliteration, that was talked about at Gamescom 2013 during EA's press conference. Well, actually, after we made the video, it came to light that there are two additional game modes. One is called Defuse, and the other one, Domination. Real quick on Domination, because we don't know as much about it. They're very, very vague. It says Domination is back with a vengeance, even more aggressive than in BF3 Close Quarters, so we're assuming it's a slightly tweaked version of Conquest Domination, which you can only play in the Close Quarters DLC. More importantly, what we want to talk about is this game mode called Defuse. Now, as it says specifically on the EA website, Defuse is an all-new competitive game mode with attackers and defenders built for tight combat and quick gameplay. Die and you won't respawn until the next round. Now, I remember back in May, and I don't know if you guys remember, I did a video and it was titled Battlefield 4, New Game Modes That I Want. And one of the things I had not really complained about, but something that always concerned me about Battlefield 3 was there was no large variety of what we had talked about yesterday, like Class A game modes. There's a lot of variations of those, but there's not a whole lot to choose from in that. And one of the game modes I said that I really wanted to see was some form of search and destroy, originally from Counter-Strike, to show up in Battlefield 3. Because that game, even in Call of Duty, you needed to have great teamwork to make that happen. And, we're basically getting that game mode now. And I can't tell you how excited I am.
So for those who don't know, let's go back in time for a quick little history lesson when it comes to Shoosty Bang. Back when Call of Duty 4 came out, when it was the new hotness, me and Stu were playing on PS3, and it was we used to play nothing but Search and Destroy, just 4 hours a night, just playing Search and Destroy over and over and over again. We knew all the nade spots, all that crap. We used to run that game when it came to Search and Destroy, and it was actually the frustrations of Search and Destroy that led us to the idea of starting at first a blog, and then which eventually evolved into a YouTube channel, because anyone who's played Search and Destroy seriously knows how frustrating it is to see the last few members of your team that are still alive just doing stupid shit and running to the wrong bomb site, so on and so forth. So the way we actually wanted to start the channel was Snoof wanted to showcase the dumbass of the week or something like that, which would be,
I think it was specifically going to be titled Useless Fuck of the Week.
Yeah, and it was going to be basically the lowlights of our session each week, just showing the mentally handicapped people that would play with us sometimes. Anyway, so this is a huge homecoming that Battlefield 4 is going to have a Search and Destroy game mode. I'm hoping that we can get right back into it the way we were with Call of Duty 4, and even, Modern Warfare 2 and stuff like that. The thing is Battlefield is sort of like a different animal than Call of Duty, so we don't know, what are we going to have? Is this going to be massive teams, or is it going to be only 4 people on each team, or because we know that infantry numbers need to be limited so you can actually have some form of strategy. But it's interesting to sort of try and think about what Battlefield 4 might limit Search and Destroy to.
Yep, I could actually see this replacing the Squad Rush, as the go-to tactical esport kind of game mode, if you will. And I could see it being upwards of 8 versus 8, with Call of Duty, because I know that this originated in Counter-Strike, but we only have experience with it in Call of Duty. So, and just to diffuse this, get it, argument before it even comes up, guys. Just because this is going to be a Call of Duty-like, even though, again, it originated in Counter-Strike game mode inside of Battlefield, does not mean it's going to make the game like Call of Duty. It's just a similar type of game mode. Does not mean it's going to change the entire dynamic of how the game plays. But anyway, so in Call of Duty, it was always 6 versus 6, and that was actually pretty good because the map sizes in COD 4, where we that was our bread and butter, was playing Search and Destroy there. Those map sizes were actually pretty comparable to Battlefield 3 TDM maps. Battlefield maps are definitely still a bit bigger, and that's why I think they could easily accommodate 8v8, and that would that would still keep it interesting and fast-paced. Well, maybe not necessarily fast-paced, but it would definitely keep it interesting enough without being, a complete shit show. Like, I could see, say, 16 versus 16 and up might be kind of difficult, because then you could always just have half your team, 8 guys, rush the shit out of people and throw tactics out the window.
I think 8v8 would be the absolute maximum. I'd like to see 6v6 just because no matter how many players you start with, at some point it's going to get down to like 2-on-2, 2-on-1 a lot of the time. And if you have a map space big enough to handle 16 versus 16, then that's just going to be silly when it comes to the different possibilities of where that last person could be. And I know that, like, you got to get to a bomb site to win, but we're talking about, like, some of the most epic moments come by forcing confrontation in these other games like Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, because you got to get that bomb planted or you got to defuse the bomb. But if you are defending and you happen to go over to like quadrant A6 because the map is so damn big you thought somebody might be over there, when Jackass is like on the opposite side of the map planting the bomb, like, that's not even going to be exciting, because you're not even going to be able to make it back to the bomb site before you lose, just because the map is so big. So I think, and if the map stayed too like small and then you still cram 16 players on each side, then it's just going to be like close quarters 64-man servers. It's just going to be utter mayhem that doesn't feel like you can put a real level of strategy into it. So I'm thinking single digits on each team is the max.
I agree. And, regarding your point about it, being potentially kind of like close quarters madness, I agree. So if you were to, let's just use Karg Island Team Deathmatch map, because I think everyone's really familiar with that overall size, and it's a little bit bigger than, say, Noah's Ark Canals. I feel like Noah's Ark Canals is actually a little bit smaller than the average TDM map. But anyway, so Karg Island. I can envision 6v6 being ideal on that size map, and this is why. If you just spread them out left to right, at its widest, there's enough room that everyone can be evenly spread out, but it leaves small gaps in between players. So even at 6v6, there is still a chance that one person can sneak through. 8v8, those gaps get a little too skinny that I feel like a team of 8 effectively has in the complete 100% vision from side to side of the map. Whereas 6v6, it should leave gaps, and ideally that's what you want. You do not want 100% coverage, because then you're just looking at a stalemate. It is impossible for the attacking team to move forward without being seen. Well, it has to be thinned out a little bit. So there is that possibility of sneaking through without engaging.
I wouldn't put it past DICE to have special map layouts based on Levolution for the Defuse game type, because, like I was saying about Call of Duty and Counter-Strike variants of this game mode, it's all about engaging and forcing these confrontations. If you had, like, the team deathmatch maps in Battlefield 3 just wouldn't work, because there's no avenues that you have to go down. Like, it's going to be a lot of getting shot in the back if you try to play search and destroy. I think on even like the squad rush maps, like the too wide open, when respawning isn't allowed, and you can't have that much time of exposure, but at the same time you want to have these avenues where you are assessing the certain amount of risk by traveling this way, not just getting shot randomly from any part of the map. Like, lines of sight are always a huge factor in these game modes, and I'd like to see, like, maybe customized maps specifically for Defuse.
Yep, and I think we're gonna get that, because again, if going back, and I'm looking at it right now, that the description on battlefield.com/battlefield 4 for Defuse, it says, built for tight combat and quick gameplay. So I actually think we probably are looking at smaller than usual map sizes, but like TDM size, maybe even a little tighter.
Right. Well, and I think the biggest difference would actually be, instead of overall area, like square footage, I think we would have just tighter pathways as opposed to just large open areas where you can decide which way you want to go on your own. The last thing I think we should sort of address is to be expected in these game modes where respawning isn't allowed. We can safely assume the defibrillator will not work, right?
Yeah, correct. That they'd completely defeat the purpose.
Right.
But I'm assuming that everything else will still work. Like throwing down health would still work. I'm assuming maybe actually what they'll do is, because I know they have the 2 different med pack sizes. They have that like
Yeah, the strap-on one.
Yeah. Whichever one. I apologize, guys. I don't remember the specifics at the moment, but whichever one is the smaller one that does, that gives less health over a longer period of time. I believe that was the difference between the two. I could see that one maybe being in use, so it kind of discourages people from wanting to always use assault. But
right.
Again, if it's just all infantry, everyone's either going to be assault, support, or possibly recon. I mean, you could probably throw engineer out the window.
Well, unless the explosives do severe terrain damage and stuff like that.
Right, and then that could definitely play in because I mean, even with Battlefield 3, like there's some maps where getting to the MCOM is a lot easier if you blow out the back of the wall behind it. So. Yeah, it's all going to be situational. It depends on how the map designs are. And I was just wait, but real quick before I forget again. One point I did want to break up is, we're talking about how it's going to play with the map sizes and everything, and I'm sure some people are kind of groaning and scratching their heads like, well, what if the maps are too small? Or what if they're too big? We got to remember that with Battlefield 3, they actually did update the game to increase the overall playable area in some team deathmatch maps. Specifically Karg Island and Tehran Highway are two examples I do know of.
Right.
So they're gonna keep their eye on it because it's a quote unquote new game mode that they're bringing in, and if they're seeing issues with map size and how it's playing out, I won't put it past them to patch it, especially if everyone brings it to their attention and they're like, hey, listen, this would be a lot better if we had like 30% more area or 30% less. It's one of those. Just keep in mind that the more feedback, EA and DICE have proven. DICE has proven that they listen to feedback and they will implement changes if it makes sense to do so. So just please keep that in mind when it comes to these new game modes when they come out for Battlefield 4.
Right. So let us know what you guys think of, most specifically of the new Defuse game type, because we are totally stoked for it. And the only downside that I can see to it is I think the second the game comes out, we have a ticking clock running before it is overrun with snipers going for their elite montages, because that's what killed Call of Duty's search and destroy.
Yeah,
is illegitimate play styles going for their epic trolls or their ninja diffuses and stuff like that. So,
well, the difference is, at least with Battlefield, we had the vote kick option. So if someone is doing that, no problem. Lickety split, vote kick, see ya.
Right. Yeah, team vote, get them out.
Yep.
So anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think, and if you disagree with maybe anything that we've said as far as player count or map style or something like that, maybe let us know, and we will see you in the next video.
Later, guys.